Hello and welcome. I am Arumba. Thank you for joining me. This is Arumba's adjustments number 4 for Europa Universalis 4. 4 for 4. So I believe, let me just check here. I think I have 16 more adjustments to go over for Europa Universalis 4, and we will dive right in just one moment. Adjustment number 1. Let's say that you have just recently upgraded your state limit and you want to find a territory to upgrade to a state. However, you are looking at this tooltip and you realize that there is no rhyme or reason whatsoever to the order. It's not sorted by alphabetical, it's not sorted by development, it's not sorted by the cost or the number of provinces. To the best of my understanding, it's pretty much just sorted probably by the order that you obtained these territories. So it's very frustrating to try to find, okay, which one. I just go through this whole list and just, mentally keep track of which one's the highest. Looks like maybe Borno is at 24 development. Nope. Mascarenes is at 27. Okay, and then I've got to go find that area. Please just sort this by the highest development. That would probably be a lot more useful than this current list. That's adjustment number 1. Adjustment number 2 kind of goes hand in hand with number 1. There is a states and territories page in the ledger that was recently added in with the last expansion. And this page will allow you to do what I asked for in adjustment number 1, which is just sort by development. However, annoyingly, there is no ability to do the upgrade from this screen, or to just at least be able to double click on this and zoom to and then make that adjustment there. So for example, if I'm going through this list and I can see that these are already states, maybe I just want to say, okay, yeah, I'm going to do that one right there. Can't double click on it. Can't search for it because it's an area and not a province. So if I search for Mascarenes, I can see the Mascarenes, which will probably take me close to it. Yeah, that's okay, so that's okay, I found it. Got it. Cool. I think, yeah, is this right? Yes, yeah, okay, we got it. But what would be better is just let me double click on it. Double click, select that state automatically, right? Like why, or zoom to it automatically. Why do I have to do the find feature? And why can't you actually search for areas using the find provinces or find areas feature? I mean, it is a find provinces feature, so I guess maybe that's why it doesn't work, but it's just frustrating that you can't, if you don't know where the states are, then sometimes you run into a situation where you have to just zoom in and just look around, which is really kind of silly and archaic even. So that would be an adjustment that I'd love to see made. Number 2. Adjustment number 3. This is fairly specific to just a few nations that actually have the ability to do it, but because I've recently played a campaign as a Berber nation, this is a very tedious feature. It needs to be updated, I think. So this adjustment, number 3, is that this Raid Coasts button should, in my opinion, be a toggleable ability. It should not be something that you have to manually click when your navy's in a sea tile. What it should be is that all I really want to determine is, do I want to raid people or do I not want to raid people? Do I care about the opinion malice? No, not really. I don't care. Just raid everything that you can. And so if I want my ships to raid, I should just be able to click on this button, kind of similar to how we've got this circular or rotating square highlight thing. It should just do that on Raid Coasts, and I enable this so that whenever there's an eligible province to be raided, they will automatically raid it. And what we should be able to do then is I could say mission, privateer, say the Sevilla node, and then I could toggle Raid Coasts. And whenever they encounter a province that they can raid, they will just automatically raid it. Because right now what you have to do is you have to remember mentally, again, this is where a lot of these adjustments come from, is tedious things that you have to mentally remember on your own that just make the game a little bit less fun and more tedious. And so you can only raid coasts once every 10 years. And if by some unfortunate stroke of luck, they end up off sync, you have to remember multiple timers, because maybe you can raid Lisboa in 2 years, but then you can't raid Murcia for 6 years, and then this one's not for 8.5 years. And so if you're playing as a Burma nation and you're trying to do this raid coast feature, you basically have to just pause the game practically every couple months just to look around and see, can I raid anything? And that's no fun. The other thing is that if they are actually defending the node by using the mission to hunt pirates, it will reduce the efficiency of raiding. And in order to negate their bonus, you have to have them privateering. You can click the Raid Coast button while they're in the doing this privateering job, but you have to do it as they move through the region, which again, I think it should just be automatic. Just let it be a toggleable ability and let us do it that way. That's number 3. Adjustment number 4. So you're playing the game, and just recently you can't remember exactly what the borders look like. Maybe there was a war that ended, and you didn't have the nations that were involved selected as special interest, and so you just can't quite remember how long it's been that someone's owned a province. So you want to go and you want to look at this province history button. Unfortunately, for no real good reason whatsoever, it's organized backwards. It shows the very first event at the very top and the last event at the bottom of this list. Now, naturally, the more provinces, or the more times that the provinces change hands, or the later into the game that you get, the longer this list will get, and the more tedious it becomes to have to scroll to the bottom every single time. Granted, it's just one click, but why not make this a little bit more intuitive? How about we just put it in the opposite order? Wouldn't it make more sense to have the most recent event at the top? So the very first thing you see is the most recent event? Kind of makes sense, in my opinion. So that would be an adjustment. Very easy. I just reverse this order. I want to know what happened last first. If I want to know what happened in 1444, I can zoom down and find out, but I care about what's going on right now, which is more relevant. So that's adjustment number 4. Adjustment number 5. So did you know that you can actually see roughly when your advisors are likely to die? You can see here if you hover over their age that they have a yearly death risk of 6% at the age of 49. At 42, it's only 1%, and at 41, he has 0% chance of dying. So until he ages up, I know for sure I will not lose this advisor at any time in the near future. Did you also know that the game tracks individually how old each individual general and admiral, explorer, or conquistador is, and that is factored into their yearly death chance? Generals and admirals have an extra death pulse that can happen if they are leading navies and armies. However, they also have the same yearly death risk that advisors have. And I believe that this is also applies to the actual leader of your country as well. It would be nice if when you're hovering over this, you could actually see age 15 yearly death chance, because again, I can't imagine Paradox had actually used multiple death calculations. It's all based on age. I have to believe that's the case. I played these games for years and years. I know how Paradox likes to do some of their code sometimes, and that's probably how it works. So it'd be great if we could see it for rulers, but also it'd just be nice to be able to know, like, how old is this general, right? I can't tell how old he is. I have no idea. Did I just hire this general? Mentally, I probably know. I hired him a while ago. Well, I don't know. How long was a while? Kind of depends on the speed that you're playing. Were you at war or not? Like, has it been 5 years? Has it been 20? Is this guy going to die tomorrow? Like, if I declare a war, wouldn't it be good to know, like, hey, your best general is like 70 years old and he's probably going to kick the bucket like in 3 days? Like, that will be relevant information. So I should be able to see, like, somewhere on here, maybe just make a hover tooltip so that if I hover over Mazinga Bairu, I can see that, he's age 56 with a 6% yearly death chance. That'd be really nice to know. So that would be an adjustment that I'd like to see. Adjustment number 6. All right, so I use the Unrest map mode often. It's a very, very useful map mode. One of my favorite map modes because you can clearly see where you should probably park your armies so that you know that you can maybe reduce unrest or at least have an army adjacent or nearby to deal with a rebellion should it fire. Now, when you hover over a province, you can see Unrest 4.7, and then it shows you the summation and how you arrived at that number, which is good, useful information. But there's this weird kind of bug that happens, and this is the adjustment, and that's that if you have an army selected while you have the Unrest map mode open, it's combining 2 lines of information, and I've found myself in a situation where sometimes I'm like, what is this? What is the Unrest? Like, I'm trying to decide, okay, where do I want to put this army, right? And I'm looking around, I'm saying, okay, Gold Coast, what's the Unrest? And then you're looking through and you're like, where's the damn number? Oh, right. Okay, for some dumb reason, it's next to Wait with First Army 16 Unrest 6.6. These 2 lines are being combined because you have the army selected, it's showing you the supply limit and Wait with First Army. And there's some sort of bug with the way the tooltip is being displayed that's combining the 2 lines together. I don't really care which one's at the top. I feel like probably the supply limit, Wait with First Army, should have its own little area, and then it should be the dashed lines. You see there's like 15 or so, or 10, 12 of those little dash hyphens. It should be like dash, supply limit 39, Wait with First Army 16, dash, Unrest 6.6. Like, just please don't combine these 2 lines together. It's very confusing where it's this way when you have an army selected, and it's a different way altogether when you don't. So that is adjustment number 6. Adjustment number 7. I believe there should be 2 different ways to organize rebel factions in the outliner. I would like to have the ability to do both, because there's certain times where I want to know both. But if you just give me one, I'd be happy. Right now, this I don't like. What I do like is that if you're looking here, it automatically organizes by the progress until the next uprising, which is somewhat useful. It's certainly better than this randomness. But what would be even better, and I think more appropriate, is the estimated time to rebel. That is actually the more valuable information. At this pace, the next revolt will be in about 83.3 years. So it's very, very unlikely that this one's going to fire. Whereas this one is 30.3. And I probably have some on here, potentially, that are even sooner, that have very, very little progress. We can see like this one's actually far more dangerous to me than the 90%, because it's an 83.3 year chance versus 1.5 year chance. But there's no organization to this whatsoever. So if I could, again, I would either prefer that the outliner organize in the order of percentage, so 90, 80, 70, 60, etc., or more appropriately, I think, the estimated time to rebellion, which would be another very interesting thing to put in there. Like, instead of showing the percent, maybe even show the estimated time to rebellion. That would be a very useful piece of information. So I don't know how that could be done. Maybe there could be two options in here. You could have, for example, you could have rebel factions, and then in parentheses, you could say by unrest, or by percentage, or rebel factions by years estimated time. ETA, you could say. That would be really cool and sweet. So that is adjustment number 7. Adjustment number 8, it's very similar to adjustment number 7, they're both related, is that, let's say that I'm clicking over and I'm trying to find, like, I've got a missionary in Ted Mecca. Notice how if I click on Ted Mecca, it zooms to Ted Mecca. There's a couple changes that I'd make to this zoom feature. One is that when you do a find provinces feature like Ted Mecca, it will highlight the province for you with a subtle little purple highlight, which is useful. Zooming to it's great, the purple highlight's great. I think anytime you click on the outliner, it should automatically add the purple. And I think there are certain situations where it actually does do that now. But the key one that I'm looking for with this adjustment is that when you hover over a rebel faction in the outliner, clicking on it takes you to this page, which is not what I want. Like, that's not useful. What I want is that if I click on this, I want it to zoom to all of the individual provinces that are causing this faction to have unrest. So if I click here, I believe it should go to Assab right now. That's what it should do. Sanag is at 0.0. It could cycle through the zeros, but I really feel like it should only cycle through the ones that are positive. So I should just click on this, and it should automatically go, okay, find Assab for me, and highlight it, so that I can see, okay, this is a location that I should consider putting an army. And then if I go to the next one, the Air Separatists, I click on it, and it should just automatically, again, do Aspen. I find myself doing this constantly, where I'm using F, and then I search for the nation, or the province, and then I do that. So I find Aspen. Okay, this is another location I need to put an army. It'd be so much easier if I could just click and cycle through Kisamayo, Barawa, and then the next one. And I could just quickly click 3 times and see, okay, yep, it's in this general area. And then I know where to dispatch my army. That would be the adjustment that I'd love to see. Adjustment number 9. So did you know that the game internally tracks autonomy even if it's being restricted by some sort of floor? So if you have like an estate, or I don't know, if you're a horde, or maybe you're playing as Ming and you're not allowed to go below 50% autonomy, the game still tracks what you would be at if the floor didn't exist, but it doesn't display it anywhere. And this is most notable where, let's say here we have Loango. It's currently controlled by the nobility. If I were to revoke this, yes, it's going to piss them off, probably get a rebellion due to it, but watch this autonomy. I have no clue whatsoever. Actually, I do, probably because just I played the game here for a while, and I know that I gave this the nobility probably 25 times, probably 250 months ago. We probably owned it for like 20 years, right? Which is enough to bring autonomy down to 0 for a piece. So, yeah, if I revoke it, autonomy's down to 0.0. But there's no way of knowing that unless you just remember. Why is it that we're obfuscating this value? Show me the province's true autonomy all the time. And also, this is another thing. Watch this. If I raise autonomy, and I currently have an autonomy floor enacted, it'll take it up to 50, and then if I revoke it from them, we're still at 50. Hold on. I was just at 0%. I was actually at 0%, just like I was in Loango. But because I raised autonomy like that, and the floor was in place, it somehow stole 25% of my autonomy? No, I'm raising autonomy by the actual true value. This is kind of strange and unintuitive in my opinion. But where the AI is actually getting trashed right now in the current version of the game is that they will very frequently conquer new territories. Spain will conquer some of France, or they'll conquer some of down here, right? And then as soon as they get it, it's a territory and it has high unrest. AI doesn't want to deal with rebellions, so they raise autonomy. So they go from, even if they had a claim on the province because it was an estate, sorry, it was a territory, and they're not allowed to actually get that 40% autonomy floor from having a claim on it. Remember, if you have a claim, it's 40% when you conquer. If you don't have a claim, it's 50% when you conquer. But if it's a territory, it's at 75%. So because of that autonomy floor being at 75%, they raise the autonomy to 100 when they raise autonomy. Or sorry, when they raise autonomy, they are taking it to 100, and then if they turn it into a state, it's still at 100. So that's really strange. Show us the true value all the time, and if you click these buttons, it should affect the true value. The restriction, the floor, should never, I think, affect the true value, like via these buttons. If you're going to track it internally, and it's going to be a real number in the game that's useful to us, it should be visible all the time, and it shouldn't harm the AI that the floor is affecting them. So that is an adjustment I think we need to see, please. Adjustment number 10. This adjustment is actually a little bit more of a game balance change, a little bit outside my wheelhouse as far as usually I make adjustment suggestions, but I feel like this is a pretty intuitive one. If you are at war with a nation and you force them to annul their treaties with someone else, say for example, I don't know, maybe you're playing as Tunis, and you're trying to force Morocco to stop being allied to the Ottomans because that's not fair, and you tell them to, hey, you can't be allied to the Ottomans anymore, then the annul treaty lasts for 10 years. All annul treaty demands in a peace deal last for 10 years. However, if you have a 100% peace deal, then the truce timer you have with those two nations is 15 years. The annul treaties only lasts for 10. So functionally, for the player and also for the AI, it's useless because 10 years will pass, and then they have 5 years to rekindle the relationship, which is kind of dumb. What's the point? Why should the AI even be able to spend points on an annul treaties, which is essentially pointless? And why should you, as a player, be able to spend points if they're just going to rekindle the relationship anyway? So what you end up having to do is do a peace deal that has less than 50% war score in order to make sure that the truce timer is shorter than the annul treaties request, so that you can then attack that nation, hopefully, before they can rekindle the relationship. What should just happen is that the annul treaties request should be 10 years minimum or the truce length, whichever is greater. So if you have a less than 50% war score peace deal, then the annul treaties last for 10 years. If it's a 100% peace deal, it should last for 15 years. Granted, they'd still have that whole, that 1 month that they could potentially rekindle the relationship, but I don't know, annul treaties is, in my opinion, functionally useless for anything over 50% war score right now because of that silly restriction on 10 years. So that would be adjustment number 10. Adjustment number 11. All right, so the disaster system is very useful, and it's something they added in fairly recently. It's very much improved, I think, from just having random peasant wars and things. But in certain circumstances, if you have lots of disasters eligible that could show up, let's say you're playing a nation that has like four estates, or I don't know, maybe you have a possibility for a religious rebellion or the Peasants' War, that kind of thing, then sometimes, even though it has value and it's ticking down, it will just disappear and you can't see it. So the adjustment is that you need to always be able to see any disaster that has positive chance, even if it's ticking down. And I can't remember the exact circumstances or what causes it to disappear, but I know I've had that happen. I'll let the estate go all the way up to 99%, and then I'll solve the problem, and then for whatever reason I can't see it. And then I don't know, how long has it been? Has it been 99 months? Am I allowed to piss them off again, or do I have to wait longer? And it just needs to always be visible here. So that would be adjustment number 11. Adjustment number 12. Okay, so this is related to combat, and this is actually, again, a little bit more of a potential for a gameplay change. However, we're going to play for a moment here. We're going to wait for Aragon to be in a province that we can engage him. He's heading back to Valencia, perfect. So notice how our army is wider than his. Now, he does have a better leader than me, so hopefully we don't just lose this fight. That would be, again, rather unfortunate. But we have no river crossing. He's got a 4-3 general versus our 2-2. We've got 16 infantry, and he's only got 17k troops. So we're going to outflank him, right? And I'll show you what I'm talking about in just a moment. So we're actually going to be there on December the 31st. Let's watch this combat. So here's the adjustment. The problem is, right now, nice roll there, Aragon. Got a significant morale advantage over him. The problem is that cavalry in the current version of the game will not try to eke their way toward the center once they no longer have a valid target, and infantry will stubbornly sit in the cavalry's way, even if the cavalry could engage something 2 tiles away. So hopefully, in this combat, Hopefully we'll win, and you'll be able to see exactly what I'm talking about. It's all going to come to this first shock phase, I think. Nice, we rolled an 8. Perfect. Okay, so watch. Their cavalry is now at 769 strength. We let another day pass. Now they're down to 543. Cavalry are doing no damage right now, so we're not actually seeing much happen here. Hopefully the morale doesn't just fold. Yeah, this is going to be a bad example, unfortunately, because we actually did win too well. But basically, what will end up happening is that as the cavalry end up getting routed, we can already see a situation where it's about to happen here. This cav here is engaging this outermost infantry. No, this outermost cavalry. And as soon as that guy is dead, this cavalry will no longer be able to engage anything. This infantry will start to engage this guy. This cavalry will engage this guy because it's 2 flanking range away. But then once that guy's gone, this infantry can no longer reach anything, and this cavalry will no longer be able to reach anything. But this infantry will stubbornly sit there and not go to the back row, for example, and allow the cavalry to move in to continue to do what cavalry do, which is to come from behind and flank and, break up the line. So that would be an adjustment that, I don't know, I know that EU4 still uses, to the best of my knowledge, either the EU3 or the EU2 combat engine. I think it's probably about time for an upgrade to that, don't you think? That's a long time. Like, maybe we should consider upgrading this so that the cavalry can actually, be cavalry and do their job. It's functional 99% of the time probably, but 90% of the time probably. 10% of the time that they're not able to do their job, it's very frustrating to see them fail. So that would be an adjustment that I'd like to see. Adjustment number 13. So I can't really force the game into a position here where they're going to do this right this moment to show it. But in one of my recent campaigns as Tunis, I ran into a situation where I'm fighting against somebody, and even though I was rivaled to Venice, they sent me a gift while I was fighting the Ottomans. I don't think that really makes much sense. I'm pretty sure it's a bad idea for the AI to ever give money to someone who has them rivaled. But I'm guessing the reason why it happened is that if Venice feels threatened by a nation, and that nation is at war with somebody else, they will aid the underdog if they have negative war score. It's probably a very simple set of code that just says, if these criteria are met, then send the money if you can. But again, they should probably factor in whether or not I have them rivaled. In this case, I did, and it was very, very strange to get money from Venice while I have them rivaled. So, something to consider. Adjustment number 14, and one of the ones that I'm the most excited about. I believe that if you have an army that has no morale, or for whatever reason you're unable to issue it commands, you should still be able to issue it commands, and they'll just do those commands as soon as they are able to. So for example, we're just doing this combat from a previous adjustment. Let's say that somehow I have no morale. Let's see if there's a way I can force that to happen. We'll drop our morale down to nothing, right? And then we'll wait 1 month. Our morale will slip immediately all the way down to absolutely nothing, and we will be down to 0.05. And that'll actually still probably be enough that we'll still be able to issue the commands. It's a bad example, but there we go. And then we raise morale, and now we can see that we have 0.51 morale out of a maximum of 2.96. So where this usually ends up happening is you're training new troops and you're at 0 maintenance. And so they start off with less than the maximum amount of morale, and because of that, you're not able to issue the commands, and you get this annoying thing where you have to wait individually for each individual army to have enough morale to be eligible to move. And the adjustment again is just allow us to issue the commands before they have the capacity to make the movement, and then once they have enough morale, have them do it, which is exactly what happens if you build using, say, the templates, or if you or if you have an army and you click this button here and you say add infantry. If I do it this way, as soon as this guy pops out, he probably won't have enough morale to move, but then once he does, he'll go and join the army, he'll head to Valencia. So the feature is sort of in the game, but just allow us to do it on a manual basis as well. So that would be adjustment number 14. Adjustment number 15 is related to the macro builder. So we have this page here, the local autonomy tab, and there's just a very, very important piece of information, and that is that on this screen, I believe we should also be able to see the total development of province. Annoyingly, you can't click on these, so I feel again like you should always be able to click on something here and it should just take you to that province, but that's kind of aside from the point. If I'm looking at a province and I can see that the Unrest is -6%, knowing how much development there is really important. Let's say that I have 2 provinces. I have one province that's got 30 development, and I have one province that has 3 development. Which one would you rather lower autonomy in? if you're going to take the risk of a rebellion, it should probably be worth the time, worth the cost. So a 30 development province would be more valuable than a 3 development province. If you were to lower autonomy in, say, 6 different provinces, you actually have a much higher chance of rebellion. Granted, the rebellion would be smaller because the size of the rebellion is based on the development in the provinces in which they rebel. But knowing the development, I think, is very important. It is very easy. Just add it in. The rebel type doesn't need to be that big. Just add a little bit more space here, so we can see the total development in the province. That is adjustment number 15. Adjustment number 16, and this is my final adjustment for this episode. So, when they added in Mare Nostrum the ability to do spy networks, one of the things that they did at the very beginning was that you had a 5-year lockout timer if you ever got caught, and this was too long because that's forever. Now it's a 3-month lockout timer, which I actually almost feels even more tedious than it used to be, because now you get kicked out and your diplomat gets sent home, and then you have to send him back again. Every 3 months, and you have to pay attention to it, which is annoying. And the reason why I take issue with this is that when you are sending home a diplomat, just think about for a moment, like, what does that mean? They're sending your diplomat home. Okay, if he was a real person, then okay, yeah, obviously they're not going to let this terrorist or this guy who's trying to build a spy network in their nation stay there. But doesn't it seem kind of strange that 3 months later you send him back, he brings his papers with him, and he's just like, yeah, I'm back. I'm going to hang out in your country. He crosses the borders. Granted, there were no passports back then, but, it's like, they'd probably recognize him, right? So we have to, okay, first off, keep in mind as well that these diplomats live the entire game. Same dude, right? Same name. 381 years from the beginning of the game to the very end, it's always going to be this one guy. So you have to recognize that these diplomats are not real people. They are an abstract, an abstraction of the power, the diplomatic power of your country, whether it's espionage or regular diplomacy. These people aren't real people. So then you go back and you say, okay, France caught my diplomat. So what does that mean? They didn't actually catch the guy. They found like a sect of your spy network. They gutted part of it, not all of it. So what I would argue is that if you are building a spy network and you get caught, please don't send my diplomat home. Please just take away some of my spy network strength. That's it. Take away 10 points, 15 points, whatever you feel is the correct number, but just let the diplomat stay there. Let him continue to build up the network again, right? Again, it's not a person, it's an abstraction of the spy network, the entire network within the country. So you shouldn't do that. And then also, just as, again, this isn't really an interface type change, but something to consider is that I really don't think that the spy network in a nation should decay if you don't have your diplomat there. Because unless the nation is actively trying to remove your spies and your established network from the nation, then what are they kicking out? Your diplomat left, but you should still have the network established as is. So what I would say is that you should have a new feature, right? A new covert action that you do, where you take one of your diplomats and instead of having him, try to counter-espionage Aragon, just have him do on your own country. He should have an activity available that will allow him to do counter-espionage in general. And if you have a diplomat doing that, that causes enemy countries that have a spy network in your nation to decay. But if you're not doing that, then it should just stay what it is. Because, again, getting locked out after having finally built it all the way up to 100, and then, okay, now I want to be able to do something when I decide to do it. But if I don't keep my diplomat there forever, then it just goes away. Why? It just doesn't make sense. This whole thing is still, in my opinion, not complete. It's moving in the right direction. It's definitely better than it used to be. But those two things, being locked out and having to manually send the diplomat back, and remember which nations you had the diplomats in. It's even worse when you get kicked out of multiple countries at the same time and you can't remember all the different nations you're trying to do it on. But then also this whole thing decaying over time. It makes like the siege bonus that you get from having a network or the stolen technology less valuable because it decays so quickly, so quickly. It usually decays in some circumstances. It decays even faster than you can build it, right? Like we're building it at 1.25 and it's going to decay at 1. Imagine if they were farther away. This is with me doing Portugal, France, and England, and these guys are all basically adjacent to me. So anyway, that's my final adjustment. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Again, take these adjustments with a grain of salt. They're my opinion. I'm just trying to make the game a little bit better if I could. If there was anything that I could actually do to improve it, then these are some of the things that I wrote down and I think would help make the game more fun. So thanks for watching the video, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. See you soon.